very quickly, I'm going to make my case for Georgia Tech making a bowl game. Ready, set, here we go. All right. Jeff Collins, they got rid of him. Hooray. That was a great move. Collins was terrible in Atlanta, didn't recruit the state, didn't establish the culture. The Rambling Wreck deserved better. They went 5-7 last year, and guess what? All of that thanks to Brent Key. He won in his first game as a head coach at Pitt, which was a monumental win. We were all stunned to see that. He then turns around and beats Duke in overtime. We watched that game together. That was a crazy win for the Yellow Jackets. Mixed results the rest of the way, but they also had an uptick in competition. That didn't matter when they played UNC. They won 21-17. So Georgia Tech, look, the stats are abysmal. Garrett, your graphic there in the middle, yikes. A lot of really bad, really high numbers, 122nd in the country on third down.
Digits.
A lot of triple digits, kind of like the temperature around the Lone Star State right now. It's not good, but let me make my case. First of all, quarterback play, I think, is going to be decent this year. Zach Pyron, I think, wins the job there. It sounded like he had the edge coming out of the spring game over Haynes King, the Texas A&M transfer. They've got a couple of running backs I like, Dante Smith, Trey Cooley. Malik Rutherford is a wide receiver on breakout watch. Georgia Tech continues to evolve the offense into the 21st century, which is, about time. They have an interesting offensive coordinator this year. Buster Faulkner comes over from Georgia. Faulkner was a quality control coach, essentially, but he worked a lot with the quarterbacks and did a really good job between the hedges. I'm curious to see what he can do bringing that to Atlanta. The defensive coordinator, Andrew Thacker, he's been there for a couple of seasons. Their defense has not been anything special. There's no doubt they need to improve on that. What worries me on the defense is getting pass rush, right? Keon White was drafted by the Patriots, was a great edge rusher last year for the Swarm. He's gone. Where do they get that production from this season? Offensively, they've got to find a way to score points, right? Their scoring offense was 125th in the country last year. You say, Mitch, that is all terrible. How on earth do you get them to a bowl game? Trey, you were specifically asking me that earlier before we hit record. Let me guide your attention over to the schedule. If you're listening on the podcast, I'll read it for you. Louisville to start. That's tough. But then you play South Carolina State. You're at Ole Miss, at Wake Forest, Bowling Green, at Miami. Bye. You go, Mitch, that sounds like a terrible way to start your season. And I agree. It's a tough start for the Yellow Jackets. But then you get Boston College, North Carolina, at Virginia, at Clemson, Syracuse, Georgia. I think if you rearrange the pieces, I think you can find wins. South Carolina State. I think you can beat Wake Forest, but your defense is going to have to be a miracle. You can beat Bowling Green. You can beat Miami. And we'll get to Miami's preview in just a second. You can beat them. Trey's holding up fingers for questionable wins.
We're counting them. We got 2 for sure.
Boston College is going to stink this year. That's a win. Lost to North Carolina. Virginia is going to stink this year. That's an easy win. You lose to Clemson unless maybe you pull something out of your hat. You almost beat them last year, or not last year, two seasons ago. I'm sorry, 2 seasons ago. My bad.
41-10 last year.
And then Syracuse. If we're really, really questioning how Syracuse's offense is playing down the stretch, you got them at home. Now, you're not going to touch Georgia. Good old-fashioned hate. They're good old-fashioned hate, right? Yeah. So that's how you get to 6-6. Is it an ironclad case? No, of course not. Would I lay any sort of hard-earned American currency on that? No. Am I going to take them to get their over/under, which is 4.5? Sure. I think the Yellow Jackets can get that, so I'll say they get to 6-6 and get to a bowl game.
Guys, I wrote the Georgia Tech preview. I think Georgia Tech's going to surprise some people this year. I think it's going to be a little bit of a up on the projections from what we're seeing right now. None of the numbers last year were amazing, but after they fired Collins and went on to Brent Key, this team played really hard for him. They played really well for him. A lot of those blowouts that you're seeing beginning of the season had nothing to do with Brent Key and his coaching. And look, for what it's worth, Zach Pyron played really well as quarterback. He just didn't play all that much down the stretch. He played well enough as a quarterback when he played. And look, there's some really talented players coming in on this team. They've kind of quietly had a really good transfer class. There's a lot of guys on the defense that have transferred in that I think, you're mixing and matching some new faces, kind of hoping that you can, make something work. Again, you're going to have new faces, so who knows how they all fit together. But there's a lot of optimism, I think, within the program that things can go the way they want it to. Guys, Malik Rutherford is a certified baller. And I'm going to say, if you have a guy like that on your team, you're going to sneak probably 1 or 2 games that you shouldn't. Malik Rutherford is that guy. If you watch the spring game, there was some really fun one that he had one where he caught a screen, kind of reverse field, broke like 7 or 8 tackles on his way to a touchdown. Had another one where he, kind of ended up being more of a streaky kind of play and scores another one. So look, Malik Rutherford, he's really, really solid. DJ Moore, also a really good wide receiver there. I know they're thinking that Christian Leary could be big. He's a Bama transfer who I think that, he's really talented, didn't really fit with the Crimson Tide and what they were doing. Look, you can say what you want to. It's Georgia Tech. You can believe just based on history that they're not going to be very good. This is a different type of Georgia Tech team. And I think they're going to make some noise. I think that first game against Louisville in Mercedes-Benz Stadium, talked about it a little bit earlier. I think that'll be a really big one for them to kind of come out, make a statement in front of their home fans. That's their hometown. That's in front of those guys who are going to be out there. They're going to buy tickets up. And I think it's going to be a really fun one to kick off the season for them. I could be holding the bag at the end of this one and just saying, hey, look at this. Georgia Tech was bad again. I just don't think it's going to happen. I have them winning 7 games this year. I think they're going to be a lot of fun.
Who am I to rain on y'all's parade? I'll let y'all have that one. I'll just point at the last few seasons as my evidence where I disagree, but you guys have fun.
That's totally fair.
Gracious, how about that?